Greetings, teachers, and welcome to the Music Teacher Mastermind, where in each episode, two or more professional independent music teachers participate in a mini mastermind discussing a COPI. That is COPI, which stands for Challenge, Opportunity, Problem, and Inspiration that have been sent to me from other teachers. My name is Jaclyn Mrozek, but you can call me Jackie, and I will be your facilitator. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Music Teacher Mastermind Podcast. My name is Jaclyn Mrozek, but you can call me Jackie, and I will be your facilitator. I am thrilled to be joined by two seasoned teachers who both have so much to contribute to our teacher community. We have Anna Fagan and Monica Monachino. But before we jump into this week's COPI, which is also known as a challenge, opportunity, problem, or inspiration, I would love for everyone listening to get to know about each of you and your studios. Well, Monica, why don't we start with you? Just where you're from, your studio, what you offer, all that good stuff.
Well, I am located in Northwest Ohio, the very, very corner of Northwest Ohio, in a very rural area. So I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere. But I am blessed. Well, I thought that would be a problem. I've been lucky enough to have a studio of 31 private students that come to my home each week. And in addition to that, I also am able to work with some homeschool co-ops and help them with their choirs and musical theater programs.
Oh, that's awesome. And you're in the middle of nowhere, kind of,
Yes.
in the country, right? And people
Very
come
much.
to you. You know, I was wondering that because I saw on Instagram you're part of like a theater group.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our homeschool co-op has an amazing, fabulous musical theater program. We have an amazing directing team and put on high quality, high level shows each year. It's part of the curriculum. And so the kids take this as a class and they get lots of experience with theater. And then they put on top-notch shows every year.
Wow.
So
We might have to connect. Yeah, we might have to talk about that sometime because, the homeschool community probably would love more of that everywhere. So that's great.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then Anna, our RV piano teacher, why don't you share a little bit about your adventures?
Sure. Well, I'm from Florida, from Orlando, which is kind of a rarity these days. I was born in Orlando. But then in April of 2021, my husband and I hit the road in a 39-foot motorhome, and we both work remotely now. So my piano studio is here in the motorhome, and I teach from wherever we are parked, which currently we're back in Central Florida. We'll be here for another week. And then if things go as planned, we'll be heading a little further north.
Okay. So do you have your route all planned out for the next year?
I plan about 6 months in advance in terms of making reservations. In terms of what we want to see, I have like a whole wish list, as I'm sure most people do, for where places they want to visit, and it's just a matter of putting together a route that makes sense. So I usually have the route planned a little further out than the actual campgrounds booked or whatnot. I guess I have about 30 students on average that I teach weekly. About half my studio is adults now.
That's great. That is so great. So how do you deal with the time zones and all that good stuff? Because you're going all over the place.
Yeah. Well, I keep the schedule in Eastern time because there's no reason for my students to have to wonder what time their lesson is. So their lesson is always at, if they're in a time other than Eastern, then they have to do the math themselves. And I remind them, your lesson, like I had a woman yesterday, I changed her lesson to 2:15 Eastern, which was 1:15 for her because she's in Alabama. And the rest of it, I just had to keep track. It's been a long time since I haven't had to subtract. And it was a little painful being on the West Coast, having students as early as like 6:30 in the morning because they were 9:30 Eastern time. But it's just part of the adventure,
Part of the adventure. I like it. Well, I love all your posts, and I love when you post videos of your setup and then also pictures of where you're at. And in the winter, I'm not going to lie, I may have been jealous of a few of your posts because I feel like you were in Arizona for a while.
We were in
Or
Arizona
Texas.
for Arizona for about 4 months.
Yeah.
Different parts of Arizona.
I don't blame you. I think that's fantastic, especially since you're from Florida. You probably prefer that warmer weather in the winter time.
In the winter, we're sweltering right now, though, I'll tell you.
Okay, well, so I do as a copy, which actually interestingly enough, Monica, you sent it to me, and since then I've gotten it 2 more times from other teachers.
Oh, wow.
I know. So this is just a really good topic for us to discuss, and it's on the topic of boundaries and creating boundaries in our piano studio. And I feel like there's so many different areas that we can touch on that. So it's kind of hard to whittle it down, but I've really been thinking about this one this week. So the problem is establishing boundaries within the studio. I want to start right now with both of you, just kind of how you both, and feel free to just chime in whenever, but how you approach setting boundaries in your piano studios as a whole. And then maybe we can kind of, get more specific.
Well, I think it starts with just having solid policies to begin with. Know what your policy is. And this was something that took me a while to figure out. When I first started, I just wanted to, give lessons and just come to my house, and this will be so easy.
Yeah.
And and then the more students you have, the more situations arise, and you realize the need to have boundaries for yourself, for your family, but it also helps your students as well. They know what's expected. And I had a conversation with a parent one time. It was a new family, a new student coming in, and I gave her my policies, and I apologized and said, "I'm sorry if this seems really strict." And she said, "No, I like knowing what you expect from us." There, just policies so that they know what to expect from you and they know what you expect, from them. I think it helps everybody right off the bat.
Oh, for sure. And it gives you that confidence too. When you do have to approach it, you have something to go back to, because I think when we're independent teachers, we don't have that boss or, oh, let me go get my manager, it's us. And I feel like the majority of music teachers, piano teachers, we're not conflict people. Like, we may be conflict avoiders. So those policies definitely help. And you just celebrated 15 years of being a piano teacher. And Anna, you've been 50 years, including your training in high school. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would love to know, you definitely probably have so many stories.
Well,
but yeah, what's your take?
I think, thinking back, one thing that you hear over and over from private music teachers, even those of us who went to college and took pedagogy classes, there's little, if any, business training. And so I think we all are at least a little bit naive when we open our homes to students. And most of us teach from our homes. And I think we're a little bit naive about what exactly people are going to do in our homes. So initially, I think it's difficult to set up those boundaries. And having said that, I think it's really valuable for a podcast people to listen to podcasts like this and find a couple of mentors, find some teachers who have been working for a while to find out what typically you need to which hills you need to stand on. Monica, I think you have kids. Yes, is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, and Jackie, I know you have kids. So one of the first things I learned when we had our daughter was that you have to choose your battles. So I think it's important to choose the things that are most important to you. And what I found is that now, even that I don't have anyone coming into the RV for a lesson, of course, online, is that the things that are most important to me are keeping my office hours, establishing office hours, so that when students ask for makeups, you already have let them know what your policy is on that. I know by and large, most teachers have what they're going to advertise on paper as a no makeup policy. And I'm an advocate of that. However, we all are willing to bend that a little bit, right? And I probably bend it more than most people because it's just my husband and I don't have kids schedules to deal with anymore. But I think that you need to establish exactly what your no makeup policy is going to be on paper and then just in your own head, know what you're going to be willing to bend for. And for me, then it's also notice on when the students are going to discontinue lessons. And it may seem odd, but that's something I talk with students about in an initial interview. because I tell them that everyone is going to quit eventually. We're not going to see each other for the rest of our lives. And so a time will come when, fill in the blank, whatever reason, it happens. And I imagine you guys have had students that you started at age 4, 5, or 6, and you've seen them all the way through their high school senior year. You watch them grow up, and then they go off to college. Some people, a lot of kids don't last that long. Adults never last. Gosh, I've never had an adult for 12 years, although I've had some for quite a while. Think about what kind of notice you want. If you want notice on them discontinuing lessons, and financially how you're going to handle that. Anything else you want to make a policy for, you're welcome to. But just know that the longer the list is, the less likely people are going to read it, and the less likely they're going to be willing to put up with all of that. I just read something recently where someone said, be careful not to start writing policies based on one person's bad behavior.
Yeah,
because then you're punishing.
which is so tempting to do.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Yes, it really is. It really, really is. Okay, so I have so many thoughts on that, and I want to circle back to a few of the things that you said. But first, let's talk about getting them to read the policies, because I think that is maybe one of the number one complaints that I see on like Facebook groups or discussions with other teachers. And I've dabbled with a few things during the years, and but I just want to know what thoughts you had on that.
Personally, it's pretty short and sweet, kind of like Anna said. Like, I just have like those basic areas, like this is attendance, this is what I expect in terms of payment, things like that. So they're pretty basic. It's not, I've been handed pamphlets before. It's not a pamphlet. It's a piece of paper and a place for them to sign, and then just hitting the highlights with them before they sign it, like just making sure that they understand, and then they get a copy. It stays in their child's folder. I get a copy that shows that they signed it. Just we've all got the same.
Make sure we all understand. And I think it's good too to kind of bring it back throughout the year. If teachers have a newsletter, like I do one once a month. I know some teachers do, some teachers don't. And every now and then, if a season's coming up, say example, winter break. So I do an even billing. I'll put in there, remember, tuition's still the same, even though we only have 2 lessons this week, because per the policy, we're on an even billing. So I kind of just throw in a little reminder before I start getting all these questions of why is my tuition the same? We only have 2 lessons. So sometimes that helps too. And last year, just real quick, because my policy used to be almost 4 pages long. Actually, it was 4 pages long. So in there, what I did last year is I took my whole policy and I put it into ChatGPT, and I said, minimize this to 1 page. And I kid you not, it took it down to half a page. Like everything that I had in there, I feel like all my points, I felt like I needed to justify. So I would have a point, and then I'd have like this 2-paragraph long explanation of why, and like I had to defend myself, right? And so that was a very humbling experience. And Anna, how do you handle your policy? So we can do it in person. Monica and I can do it in person and say, here, but doing it online, is that a little bit more tricky? Do you see the parents as much?
Oh, well, it's not tricky because even when I was teaching in person, I think the last 5 or 6 years I taught in person, I went to a Google form that I have students fill out every year in late July, because my school year starts in August, my studio year, because that's the school year in Florida. So I have an actual policy, and I'm intrigued by the whole ChatGPT. So now, of course, that I want to put that in there.
You'll have to let me know how it goes.
I think it's only the 2 pages long. I think mine is, and it doesn't have a whole lot of you must or you must not stuff in it. I think of it more as kind of an FYI, in that it gives you there's a little bit of information in there about student evaluation systems that I work with, how I feel about contests, that kind of thing, So, and I don't even talk about any of that in an initial interview with a new family unless they ask about it. So as I said, the key points in my policy that are like most important to me are, as Monica said, payment, how I handle missed lessons, and when you decide that you're going to discontinue. That's all. So those are bullet points in the Google form that I send out every year, which serves as their re-registration and helps me put the schedule together. So they just check a box saying that they agree to those. So they don't even have to read the policy. I always resend it. When I send the link for the Google form, I always send the 2-page PDF and just say, if you want to review the policy, here it is, but here are the key points that you are agreeing to. And I also put a release in there, a video photo release, so that I can use, photos and videos.
Oh, good.
And it's like, yes, I agree. No, I don't agree, or ask me on a case by case. So it's real easy for me to then refer to that through the year. So that hasn't changed at all since I've been online.
I really like the fact that you give it to them, but you give the main points. Like, these are the most important things. So they don't, maybe if they're going to skim it or whatever, you can make sure that they don't miss what you really want them to look at.
Yeah.
Right?
Or if they don't look at it at all, if they choose not to read the policy
Which
at all.
Which it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a specific amount of grace that really should be given to the parents that don't read the policies. I know that we complain about that all the time, but from their perspectives, they have a whole nother life going on. Piano is just a small part. As much as we want it to be, the main part of their lives, it is the main part of our lives because it's our livelihood, it's our profession, it's our love, but it's not theirs. And so they're just trying to do what they need to do to create their own boundaries for their own lives and their own families. I think that's great, kind of giving them a little pointer. So let's talk about, you talked about when students plan to leave, right? And so Monica, you and I had been talking before, and you were kind of telling me a little bit about conversations that you've had with families in the past as far as when are students really done and when are they not done conversation.
I think it's so easy to get on autopilot, like this is what we do. And so, I noticed it coming into the summer, and with all of these students getting ready to enter high school, just this summer, we talked about, okay, let's set up a summer schedule. And while you're looking at your summer schedule, look ahead to your fall schedule, because a lot of them were like, they're going to have a summer job, or they're, like whatever all of their responsibilities are. But I said, while you're looking at summer, look ahead to this fall, because I do require them to pay a holding fee if they're not going to take through the summer. And it's non-refundable. So go ahead and look and understand that it's okay if you have other interests and you want to pursue those. I get it. And it's okay. Go ahead and look. You have my permission to do what you need to do. Because I get it. I've been there as a student myself and as a parent myself, where you just need to make those decisions as they get older. What do we need to pursue more fully, and what has served its purpose, and we can release now. So
yeah. So so I take it you've had to have a couple of those difficult conversations.
Yes. And some people will say, nope, just this summer, we'll be back in the fall. And some have said, wow, yeah, next year's high school. My goodness.
Yeah.
And so just this year, I did have a student who said, thanks for making us look ahead. We're going to be done now, and we're really sad about it. and that's okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I said, I'll still be cheering her on. I'm still going to watch everything she's, doing from afar. And, I wish her the very best. Music is not her passion. She enjoys it, but she has other interests she wants to pursue. And I don't want to take those from her.
Like the end of the era. Well, it sounds too, I've had a couple of students as well where I've been surprised when they stop. But I have to take a moment and think, okay, have I equipped them with the tools that they need, if they want to pick it up again later on, or maybe if they want to learn a piece on their own. And that's usually kind of how I plan ahead too. It's like, okay, what can I give these students if they were to leave, equipping those tools? So it sounds like you're very confident in that as well.
I always ask them when they start lessons, what is your purpose for wanting lessons? We don't all have the same purpose. For some parents, I have one family that's like, I understand the brain health the benefits that come to their brains and their learning. And so that's why we do piano, because it's good for their brains. And I have other parents, I want them to learn to read music. And I have others that are like, this is going to be a lifelong thing for them. So kind of understanding, what are you looking to gain from this? Because that helps me know too, hey, what do we need to look for in lessons and work on? But, high school, once you get up there, maybe it's served its purpose for your family, what your goals were.
Wonderful. Awesome. So how does that go online with you, Anna? I mean, does everybody seem to understand that they stick it out for the year online, or do you feel like there's a different perspective versus in-person lessons?
I don't think going online made any difference at all. As far
Okay.
back as I can remember, anytime I talk to a new student, I make it really clear to them that my goal for them as a student is that they have an emotional outlet through piano. That's what I want them to have. I hope that they'll play the piano for the rest of their life, whether they study piano or not. And I want to get them to a place where they feel like they can pick up a piece of music and learn it without my help, without anyone else's help. And it's up to them how difficult a piece they want to be able to pick up. And I want to make sure the parents that understand that that's my goal as well. I put very few students, even through evaluations. And I just found in Florida anyway, I can't speak to anyone else's school system, but the kids here are just tested to death anymore. And I didn't want, to be just one more test. I used to have all my students go through guild auditions. And then when I stepped away from that, state chapter of MTNA has their own evaluation system. And I've had students that have gone through that. I've even had some adults go through that, and I'm happy to support them. But that's not my goal for them. My goal is not to have them win a whole bunch of contests. If they want to go in for a contest, it's great. I'm happy. I've placed students at contests, but that's not my goal. I think a lot of times parents haven't thought about it at all. Don't you find, Monica, that they just feel like piano is just something that they should do?
Yes.
Like soccer and check all the boxes off. So I think sometimes I hope that it's helpful to them that I've thought it ahead for them. And I just want them to know that I want piano to be an alternative to throwing something across the room. And I want them to know that it's okay for their child to bang on the piano and make a lot of noise, that they will not break it. They will not harm it. It's okay. And as their child gets older, they'll be happy for them to do that. In terms of how long they stick around, this is the first year that I've instituted the 12-month schedule. And so whenever students sign on, no matter what month it is, the tuition, I quote them, I tell them they're in for 12 months, and I've split it into 12 payments. And of course, that doesn't mean they have to stay. It just means that if they feel like, well, I'm going to take the month of June off, then I'm still going to send them a bill. If they decide to quit, I'm not going to send a lawyer after them. I'll wish them well, and we'll find someone else to fill that spot.
I love that. I'm trying out the 12 months as well. I feel like, well, that's a whole nother conversation too, but I'm a big fan of it so far. It's made my life a lot easier. So I definitely recommend that. Okay. So, and circling back again, Monica, you said at the very beginning how you had sent out your policies and you were almost apologetic. Like, I hope this isn't too strict or too rigid. One of the things I was thinking about is what kind of tips or techniques that we can have to effectively communicate our boundaries without sounding too strict and too rigid and being like, well, this is my studio and I do it this way and that way. And, because we do have to respect our homes when we're teaching in our home, or maybe we're teaching in a school, it's not our instrument. Maybe we're using that kind of thing. So we have to have that. We have to have those conversations. Yeah. How can we communicate to the parents that we are encouraging music makers? We want them to have fun, but we need to respect our boundaries.
I think the more that they see us act professionally, the more they just take us professionally. It is a business. And it's so funny that Anna had mentioned, we go to school and we get pedagogy degrees and, but we don't get business training. And actually, I'm the opposite. I have a business degree. I don't have a music degree. I studied music in college. I got a business degree instead. So, but I do think we have to take ourselves as professionals treat it as a business, and they will respect it as a business. More so than if we're constantly like, oh, this is uncomfortable for me. So
Yeah. Been there.
but yeah, they will respect it when we're professional. And that doesn't mean, kind of like you said, it's my way or the highway, that's not what it needs to be. But just, this is what it is. These are the rules of business, like, for example, because it's my home, some people will assume that as soon as they get here, they can just walk in my door. I'm like,
Wow.
whoa. The lesson starts at 4 and I will unlock my door at 5 till. You may come in then. You may not come in before that. And I did have to have a conversation one time and just say, well, it's just like if you get to the store before they open, you don't expect to come in early. You wait until it opens. I said, it's kind of the same principle. I'm busy doing other things, but I will unlock my door at 5 till, and you may come in then. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that. It's because mine, there's a little waiting area, fortunately. So yeah, I guess you have to balance a lot because you're in the middle of teaching, and that's already a distraction, even if it is 5 till.
Yes.
So
And
so do you have?
If they know there's already a student in there, they're really good about it. Like, I don't lock the door then. It's when nobody's there, I'll just go in. Well, it's 20 till. I'm still getting dinner, in the crock pot, or switching my laundry, or, and they enter right into my music room, which is shut off from the rest of the house. But it's still just a little awkward. Like, it's not time yet.
Yeah.
Please wait.
Okay, so both of you, and I'll start with Anna. What advice would you give to new or aspiring music teachers who they're establishing and maintaining boundaries? Maybe they don't have that business experience, right? I remember having books on, I forget which one it was. You guys would probably recognize it, but on how to write effective policies and stuff. What advice would you give them on maintaining boundaries from the start as they start up their studios?
Well, like I said before, I think it would be really important for them to talk to a few teachers that have been in business for a while, because they're not going to realize what things clients might be doing. They probably don't even know where they need to throw up boundaries. I think that the whole business of makeup lessons and how you're paid is talked about a lot. I mean, you could go into any Facebook group and find that. But what you guys have been mentioning about people showing up early for lessons, people showing up sick for lessons. I used to love, the kid would come in and say, I say, how was school today? Well, I didn't go to school today because I have a fever. And yet you're here. Boundaries. I know, all my stuff. Boundaries that have to do with how soon they're picked up after their lesson, And I know that if we had a whole room full of teachers, there would be those teachers who would say, it's fine. If they come a little early, it's okay. I don't mind if they hang around for a while because I'm teaching as long as they're quiet. And then there are others who would be like, no, I'm not a babysitter. And it's important, I think, that you think through those things. It's kind of like, I guess, marriage counseling. Where you sit with a minister and I say, now, what about Christmas? And you say, well, what do you mean Christmas? I go to my parents' house, then your husband says, well, I thought we'd go to my parents' house. And then you realize that there are things that you have not even thought about that you need to talk about. Yeah. So again, you have to choose your battles, but you have to know where the battles lie.
I love that.
And so I think to make a list and kind of rank it and then decide what you're going to put in a policy, in a written policy, what you're going to talk about initially with students, and then just be prepared to deal with the rest of it as it comes.
Awesome. That's some really great information. Do you have anything to add, Monica?
Yes. Piggybacking right off of that, get involved with like a local music teachers association. Same principle, get yourself around other piano teachers who have experience, who can kind of take you by the hand and say, oh, you might want to think about this, not telling you how to do it or anything, but these are just things that we've experienced. And Christina Whitlock, I love her. And she is the one who really convinced me that I needed to try to get involved in my local music teachers association. And I was always very intimidated. Like, these people have been teaching, they know what they're doing. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not qualified to be in their presence. And I took the plunge and I got involved. And it has been the biggest blessing to meet with these people on a regular basis, to hear different stories, to know that I'm not alone. They're local to me. So, we have a lot of the same types of, just mindsets and cultural things. And, so it's nice. I love my Instagram piano teacher people, but I love my local group. It's
Right.
I'm sure they
So
were
I
thrilled
get
when you
involved.
joined, to have someone join who had a business degree
They were
and,
so,
and who was as approachable and friendly as you are. I'm sure they were thrilled.
Yeah.
they've been
Well,
so
and you
sweet.
probably brought something fresh to the table too. Like, they get to kind of, because it's good for seasoned teachers to remember what it's like at the beginning, because we get so used to things that I've noticed sometimes I don't communicate certain, well, maybe things that I should in my policy as clearly to new people, because I've had other people get used to it for so many years that I feel like I've just said it all to death, right? But so it's probably really nice for them to see somebody, come on in with fresh eyes.
And
I
fresh
think
ideas. I think
Yes.
the
Yes.
fresh ideas. Look at this composer that I just ran across. Sometimes we kind of miss some of that new stuff coming out, whether it's, boom cards and like getting students doing something new and fun like that, or just fresh ideas is huge.
Yeah. Community is a really, really big deal. So, Anna, can we just kind of switch a little bit to community, just for, I know we weren't even thinking about that, but it just seems like we've taken that turn. Being online, I know that you're a huge part of your association in Florida. At least you used to be. Are you still?
Well, one of the
I'm
things I've really
surprised.
enjoyed now that we've been here for the last 2 weeks is touching base with a lot of teachers that I haven't seen in person in a while. It's definitely different. It really wasn't until I got to Arizona that I thought, as I move around the country, I might be able to attend some meetings in some other local associations. I don't know why that had never occurred to me, but
Yeah.
I certainly could. I do meet teachers. Becky, it was great meeting you and Elizabeth when I was
Yeah, that was
in
so
Ohio.
fun. Yeah.
So I always seek out as I move around the country, trying to meet other teachers that I might have only met online. The online community has become, I started to say, a poor substitute, but that's kind of a cruel thing to say, and I don't really mean it. It has become
Yeah.
an almost as good substitute for meeting in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, it's so cool that you have that. I will say, I mean, I belong to two associations, and I feel like if I don't see piano teachers for an extended period of time, I get grumpy or something happens to me. I don't
Yeah.
know. It revitalizes me. But I do love the online space because I feel like it's so much more diverse in ideas. I think sometimes when we're around the same people all the time, we all tend to kind of adopt each other's ideas
Yeah.
or whatever. And I see a difference in, teachers in different states and all that. So sometimes there's a good mix, right? Mix of both worlds.
Yeah. It's
So
kind of like Monica said,
yeah.
you get a fresh viewpoint because
Yeah.
people do things differently.
Mhm.
We were in Mississippi a couple weeks ago, and I got to meet with a teacher there who works in a college. And the restaurant, we walked into the restaurant, and two of her colleagues were already there. So we sat down and had lunch with them, and it was so interesting. Not only teachers from state, but teachers in a completely different kind of a work environment. Just comparing what problems and challenges that we share, and things that I had never even considered might be an issue.
Yeah.
Whole different
Yeah. I
boundaries.
love that. Yes, and everyone listening, if you follow Anna, always pay attention to where she's going, because she might come to your
Yes.
area,
Come
and
and have
then
coffee
you
with
get to
me.
go have some coffee. Yeah, we got to go to a different, when me and Elizabeth met up with you. Actually, what's funny, and I'll just share this story really quick. You had posted that you had stayed at this winery And then you were already gone from there. You were like almost in Indiana, and we had already planned that we were going to meet you. And I was like, my goodness, that winery is like 5 minutes out.
I wish I'd known.
I know, but which is fine. I'm glad that you got to stay there. We that's actually our anniversary spot that we'll be going to next week.
That's a beautiful
we love that
place.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice. But yeah, so I guess for everyone, watch where she goes, because you just kind of pop into places and we're like, hey, I know where that's at. So it's great. Well, you guys, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate your insights. And I do agree. I think it all comes down to that policy. When you have a good policy, you have confidence in your boundaries, and then it kind of just goes from there. And that is what I had to deal with this week. I started getting anxiety, and then I was like, no, I already sorted this out. It's good. And I don't think the mom was super happy, but it was resolved. Going back to those boundaries. So thanks you guys so much for joining me today and it being so sweet and kind. And if anybody wants to follow you, so Monica on Instagram, what is her handle on Instagram?
MS Monachino.
Monachino. It looks like Monachino, right? Sorry, I love to say that.
But it's Italian, so that CH is a K sound.
I love it. I love it so much. And then Anna, what is your preferred handle?
RV Teacher on Instagram.
Okay. And then and you're on Facebook too.
I am on Facebook. I have a business page on Facebook that's primarily aimed for piano students. Advertisement for my studio. And those mirror with Instagram. The RV Piano Teacher one is where I share my travel information, though, as well as things kind of more for piano teachers. Encouragement and ideas for piano teachers.
Well, we're glad you guys both have so much to offer. So I'm honored that you were on here and to have met. So thank you so much. Greetings, teachers. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I want to give a special shout out to Anna and Monica for being so friendly and kind to me as I start this podcast journey with my very first episode. If you are looking for help in revising or even creating effective policies to help maintain healthy boundaries within your studio, check out a studio bootcamp that starts this Friday, June 14th of 2024. Join in on 7 live sessions and a discussion forum that will help provide replays, a space for Q&A, plenty of resources, and a space for audits. Sessions include business accounts, taxes, policies, tuition rates, scheduling tips, creating the year's calendar, studio systems, management software, parent communications, marketing for your ideal waitlist, and more, if you can believe it. We have presenters from all over, including Andrea Miller, Ashley Danu, Amy Elmore, Jess Homewood, Holly Hornian, Demetris Maddox, Rachel Ehring, Clinton Pratt, and myself, Jaclyn Mrozek, all at a cost that is less than 1 month of piano lessons. And if your lessons cost less than this session, then you should really join and we can help you out with that. Check it out at www.pianocats.com. That is cats with a K under teacher helps, or simply click on the link in the show notes. See you there.